Joining us now, Jamil Jaffer. He is the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute and has served as a senior staff member for the House Intelligence Committee. Good morning, sir. Good to see you again in the midst of this very dull news cycle. Thanks for making some time this morning. Let me start with the Matt Gaetz situation. I'm just wondering, from what you're hearing, and you travel in these circles, is there a chance he will be confirmed? Is it going to become a recess appointment? And does Trump really want Gaetz to be the AG, or is there some larger political calculus or strategy unfolding here?
Yeah, these are great questions. It's hard to know what to make of the nomination of a guy like Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General. To be sure, the one thing he has going for him is that he is a lawyer from William & Mary Law School, and he was elected to Congress. Beyond that, it's really hard to understand this nomination. He's a controversial figure, to say the least, the subject of an extensive investigation by the Justice Department. Ultimately, they decided not to pursue charges, but the subject of an ongoing House Ethics Committee charge or investigation, at least. He's now resigned from Congress, so maybe that addresses that issue. But it's hard to imagine him facing a easy confrontation fight in Congress, in the Senate. But to your point, there's a very real possibility he might be recess appointed. The question is, how does it happen for the president to make a recess appointment? The two houses have to disagree over a recess, and the president has to resolve that by adjourning Congress, or the Senate has to actually recess, which in the past it has avoided doing by holding these pro forma sessions. So we have to see what happens going forward.
And let's be clear just for a second. Matt Gaetz is not just a polarizing figure, but there are members of his party who really hate this guy. They're just happy he's out of the House. Some of them already said that publicly. And this report, which was slated potentially to come out, let's be real, that report is going to leak and get out, whether it's officially released or not. We know that's coming. Do you think this report, once we see it, which we will pretty much torpedo his chances?
I mean, it seems likely to, but then again, it makes you wonder, well, if the president knew that, or the president-elect knew that this report was coming out, or his political advisors told him that, why nominate Matt Gaetz? It seems like a crazy move. It also seems designed to harm the president himself because, if he loses an early nominee, particularly a nominee for an important position like Attorney General, it certainly doesn't make him look good. So you've got to wonder, for a president-elect like Donald Trump, who cares a lot about his image and the way he's viewed by the public and by members of his own party, this is not a nomination designed to help him succeed. Now, if he thought there was some way he could push this nomination through or be successful, that might be a different story. But again, with this ethics report coming out, it's hard to see, or leaking, as you say, it's hard to see how that happens.
Is this a loyalty test for Congress? I
mean, it may be a loyalty test in the sense that he'll see who of his party is going to oppose a dramatically underqualified and odd nomination like Matt Gaetz. But we'll see. I mean, it's just, we've already seen the president try to get Rick Scott to be the Senate Majority Leader. He failed at that with John Thune being elected by his fellow senators. So it's clear the Senate is not simply just going to roll over, even though President Trump does appear to have coattails, does appear to have carried both the Senate and the House at a time when people weren't sure he'd get elected. So he does have some weight with Congress, but it hasn't worked to get him the Majority Leader. And it seems hard to imagine it's going to get him his AG and maybe not even his DNI. This may be designed to just detract fire from some of the other more controversial nominees. But the president has made good nominations as well. We've got Mike Waltz, not nominated, but selected to be National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. These are positive nominations. These other ones, it's harder to understand.
So fascinating. Switching gears to Gabbard for a second. She would be in charge of 18 intelligence agencies, and as we said a second ago, has not ever worked for any of them. Are you worried about her qualifications, and how real and why are the concerns about her links or her relationship or her mindset when it comes to Russia?
Yeah, look, I mean, there have been a number of directors of national intelligence who haven't worked in the intelligence community, so I don't think that's a disqualifying factor. Tulsi Gabbard did serve in the military. But beyond that, she's, again, a very odd pick. This is a woman who said that Bashar Assad is not a enemy of the United States, a person who said that the reason Russia invaded Ukraine was in part because the U.S. had biological weapons facilities in Ukraine. Both bizarre and, I think, inaccurate and I think statements that most members of her own party, the Democratic Party, to note, and members of the Republican Party, I don't think agree with or are supportive of. So again, a very strange nomination for the president to make, particularly in light of the more sensible nominations he's made, like Marco Rubio for Secretary of State and Mike Waltz as his national security advisor. It's hard to know who he's listening to and why he's making these picks and what's going on inside the transition team that they would come up with such diverse and odd picks.
Bottom line, lay out what's at stake here. What are the consequences of Matt Gaetz potentially taking that position, and Tulsi Gabbard, for not only our, nation's legal investigation system and also national intelligence? I mean, it seems like those are such incredibly important posts. What is at stake for the American people to have inexperienced people take these jobs?
Well, again, you couldn't imagine two more important jobs to the American people. The Attorney General, who's in charge of prosecuting federal crimes across the country, and the Director of National Intelligence, who coordinates the activities of these over a dozen intelligence agencies that are critical to protecting our national security. Now, that being said, the president-elect has been very critical of the Justice Department, calling it politicized. He's very critical of the intelligence community, referring to parts of the intelligence community as the deep state, I think, inappropriately. And so maybe this is his effort to say, look, I think you guys are corrupt or problematic, and so I'm going to nominate a couple of cartoonish almost figures to head you up. Maybe it's sort of a backhanded a stab at these two organizations, but it's one that is bad for the American people, bad for the rule of law, bad for our national security, and not a smart move by a president who's likely to lose at least one, if not both of these nominations, and make himself look embarrassed in front of the country.
Jamil, one last point before we let you go. I hear everything you're saying, but it also tracks. Trump wants to dismantle the administrative state, the deep state. Matt Gaetz has said very similar things, including about the DOJ, an agency that he may head in the not too distant future. And Tulsi Gabbard, okay, she, has thoughts on Russia and Syria. Trump likes autocrats like Orban and Putin and Kim Jong-un. Yes, it seems shocking to the establishment, and we're all used to certain norms, but if you listen to what Trump says and who he is, these picks make sense in his world with this agenda, and now he has all the political momentum in the world. So in some ways, it's shocking, but in some ways, it ain't.
I think it's a fair point. I mean, look, the American people, Donald Trump has been very clear about who he is, what his views on things like the Justice Department, the deep state, the intelligence community are. And he's told the American people that in no uncertain terms, time and time and time again. And the American people voted for him in a significant fashion. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. He won them outright on election night without the need for an election contest or a fight about controversial elections. So at the end of the day, I mean, Donald Trump is not just the nominee of his party. He's the president elected by the nation. And so he does get his picks. Now, whether he gets picks like Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, a different story. But the American people knew what they were getting, and a majority of them voted for him.
The American people knew what they were getting. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Jamil, Jaffer, always enjoy our conversations. Thank you for giving us some time, sir. We really do. We do appreciate it.